How did Native Americans hunt dangerous animals without weapons? You would never guess their methods. Imagine a world without gunpowder and steel, where man comes face to face with nature in its most formidable form. How could a hunter armed only with wood, stone, and his own wits take down an animal weighing over a ton? It was not just hunting, but a high art based on a deep knowledge of the world and incredible courage. The Indians of the Great Plains and forests of North America did not just survive in these conditions. They thrived, creating ingenious tactics and tools. They turned nature itself into their ally in the fight against the most dangerous predators on the continent. Their methods were so effective that they were able to feed entire tribes. Watch this video to the end to learn how the most grandiose bison trap, requiring the participation of hundreds of people, worked, and why a spear in the hands of an experienced warrior was much more effective than it might seem at first glance. What if I told you that the main weapon of an Indian hunter was invisible? Before picking up a spear or bow, a warrior prepared himself spiritually. Hunting large and dangerous animals, whether bison or bears, began not with stalking, but with a ritual. The hunter appealed to the spirits, asking them for luck and strength. He fasted and made offerings to show his respect for the animal whose life he was about to take. It was not murder, but a sacred covenant, where man took only as much as was necessary for the survival of the tribe. This worldview completely changed the approach to hunting. The hunter did not seek to dominate nature, but tried to become part of it, to understand its rhythms and laws. He studied the habits of animals not as an enemy, but as an attentive student.
This will make a fine winter coat. Yes, it will keep us warm.
Respect for the prey was evident in everything. After a successful hunt, every part of the carcass was used. The meat was eaten, the skin was used for clothing and shelter, and the bones were used for tools and weapons. Nothing was wasted. That was the unwritten law. This deep spiritual connection gave the hunter something that no weapon could give him: confidence and inner peace. He approached the beast not with aggression, but with an understanding of his role in the great cycle of life. And that is what made him truly strong. He learned to think like his prey, to predict its actions several steps ahead. The hours spent in meditation and observation were as important a part of preparation as sharpening the tip of a spear. It was a battle of wits, not brute force. It is difficult for modern people to understand such a philosophy because we are used to relying on technology. But for Native Americans, technology was secondary to strength of spirit and knowledge. Their main tool was within themselves. They believed that the spirit of an animal willingly gave itself to a worthy and respectful hunter. Therefore, the entire process was aimed at proving that you were worthy of this gift. Failure in hunting was often perceived not as a mistake, but as a sign that the spirits did not favor you.
Spirits of the ancestors, grant me strength and clarity.
This mental and spiritual preparation allowed them to overcome fear. Facing a grizzly bear with a single spear, the hunter relied not only on his agility, but also on his belief that he was doing the right thing. It was the highest form of concentration and self-control.
We must honor the spirit of the land.
We share this wisdom with our children.
This approach shaped not just hunters, but wise guardians of nature who understood the fragile balance of the world. I'm very interested to hear your point of view. What do you think about how spiritual preparation could influence success in such a dangerous endeavor? Write about it in the comments. Are you ready to learn the truth about the most underrated weapon of antiquity? The spear seems like a simple tool, but in the hands of an Indian hunter, it became a highly accurate and versatile instrument. Its design, refined over centuries, was ideal for hunting large game. The spear shaft was made from strong and flexible woods such as ash or hickory. It was carefully straightened over a fire and polished to a perfect smoothness. The length of the spear varied depending on its purpose. Shorter and heavier ones were for close combat, while long and light ones were for throwing. The tip was the most important part. Before the advent of metal, it was made of stone, flint, obsidian, or quartzite. Using the pressure retouch technique, a master armorer could create a razor-sharp and perfectly symmetrical tip in a matter of hours. The shape of the tip was thought out to the smallest detail. Wide leaf-shaped tips were designed to inflict large wounds on large animals, such as bison. Narrow, long tips were better suited for deep penetration and hunting thick-skinned animals, such as bears. Attaching the tip to the shaft was a real art. It was inserted into a split at the end of the shaft and tightly wrapped with animal tendons. As the tendons dried, they contracted, creating an incredibly strong and secure connection. Some spears had a removable tip. It was connected to the shaft with a long strap made of rawhide. After hitting the target, the shaft could be detached, but the tip with the strap remained in the animal's body, preventing it from moving and allowing hunters to track it more easily. The hunter was a master of the spear. He could not only deliver powerful thrusting blows, but also throw it with amazing accuracy. Training began in childhood, and by the age of majority, a young man could hit a target at a distance of several dozen meters. When hunting bison on horseback, the spear was the main weapon. The rider approached the animal and delivered a precise blow to the vulnerable area behind the shoulder blade. This required incredible courage, agility, and perfect understanding with the horse. Against an animal such as a bear, the spear was used as a defensive weapon. The hunter would stick the blunt end of the shaft into the ground and point the tip towards the attacking predator. The outcome of the fight was decided by the warrior's endurance and composure. The spear was not just a weapon, but an extension of the hunter's arm, a symbol of his strength and skill. But how could a spear alone help in hunting a whole herd of giant bison? The answer lies not in the weapon, but in the ingenious tactics, which you will learn about in the next chapter. You've definitely never heard of this unique tactic. The most ambitious and impressive hunting method of the Great Plains tribes was the bison jump, or piskun. It was a highly complex operation that required flawless coordination of hundreds of people and a deep understanding of both animal psychology and the terrain.
Move them out! Keep them moving! Over here! Over here!
To organize such a hunt, a suitable location was chosen, a high and steep cliff with a flat area below. Preparations for the event could take several weeks. The entire community, from elders to young people, took part in this sacred ritual. The key element was the chase corridors. Hundreds of stone cairns or structures made of branches and skins were placed several kilometers from the edge of the cliff into the plain. These structures formed a huge funnel that gradually narrowed toward the precipice. The hunt began when scouts found a large herd of bison and began to carefully drive it toward the trap. At this stage, the main thing was not to scare the animals, but only to slightly adjust their movement. It was a slow and painstaking process that required enormous patience. When the herd approached the beginning of the drive corridor, the most important participant, the bison herder, came into play. This was a specially trained young warrior who wore a calf's skin. He crept up to the herd and, imitating the cries of a calf, attracted the attention of the leaders. Curious or concerned bison began to follow the imaginary calf, drawing the entire herd behind them. The herder slowly retreated deeper into the corridor, leading the animals to their fate. This man risked more than anyone else. One mistake could cost him his life. At a certain point, when the herd was deep enough in the funnel, the other hunters who had been hiding behind stone towers suddenly appeared. They began to shout, wave skins, and make noise, cutting off the bison's retreat. The only way out was forward toward the cliff. The frightened herd, driven from behind and from the sides, broke into a panic run. The bison, running in a dense mass, could no longer stop or turn. The front rows, even seeing the cliff, could not slow down under the pressure of those behind, and the whole herd crashed down. Other hunters were already waiting at the foot of the cliff. Their task was to quickly finish off the wounded animals to end their suffering. This part of the hunt also required great skill and courage. The bison jump was an incredibly effective, but also very risky method. It allowed a huge amount of meat and hides to be obtained at once. enough to provide for the tribe throughout the long winter. This tactic is the pinnacle of Native American collective hunting thought. What you are about to learn will change your perception of hunting. In the dense forests of the Northeast, where the Iroquois lived, and in the subarctic taiga, where the Cree lived, large-scale drive hunting was impossible. Here, the art of individual hunting and ingenious traps that worked without human intervention reigned supreme. Forest hunters were masters of camouflage and silent movement, but often it was much more effective not to track the animal, but to make it come to the right place itself. For this purpose, a wide variety of traps were used, from simple snares to complex wooden structures. One of the most common types was a pressure trap, or spring trap. It consisted of a heavy log or platform of stones, which was held in a raised position by a complex system of guards and levers. The bait was placed in such a way that the animal trying to reach it would touch the guard and activate the mechanism. Creating such a trap required a deep understanding of the mechanics and habits of the animal. The hunter had to calculate the weight of the log, the sensitivity of the mechanism, and choose the right place to set it up. A beaver trap was radically different from a deer or caribou trap. Another effective device was a snare made of strong leather straps or plant fibers. They were set on animal trails, camouflaged in bushes or snow. The snare was designed to catch the animal by the neck or leg, holding it securely. Pit traps were sometimes used to hunt large animals such as moose or deer. They were dug along trails and carefully camouflaged with branches and turf. Once in such a pit, a large animal could not escape. The Indians also built long fences made of stakes and branches that stretched for hundreds of meters through the forest. Several passages were left in these fences, where snares or other traps were set. Animals moving through the forest would run into the barrier and be forced to walk along it in search of a passage, falling straight into the trap. All these devices were completely silent and deadly. They allowed a single hunter to control a large area and catch game without coming into direct contact with it. This was especially important in harsh winter conditions when it was necessary to conserve energy. Knowing where and how to set a trap was as valuable as knowing how to shoot a bow. This experience was passed down from generation to generation, forming the basis of survival for forest peoples. Their world was permeated with invisible threads of traps, patiently awaiting their prey. But what if you needed to hunt on water, where you couldn't set traps or build pens? In the next chapter, you'll learn how Native Americans solved this difficult problem. Hunting from the water required completely different skills and equipment. The peoples who lived near rivers, lakes, and the seacoast were skilled boat builders and harpooners. Their main means of transportation and hunting was a light and fast boat, a canoe or kayak. Canoes, common among forest tribes, were made from a single piece of birch bark stretched over a cedar or spruce frame. The seams were sealed with spruce resin, making the boat completely waterproof. Such a vessel was light enough to be carried by one person. Silence was the main advantage of the canoe. A hunter could sneak up on a moose or deer crossing a river, getting almost right up close. Moving silently along the overgrown banks, he tracked his prey without being seen. Northern peoples, such as the Inuit, used kayaks, completely enclosed boats covered with sealskin. The kayak was incredibly stable and fast, allowing the hunter to go out into the open sea. The hunter sat inside, and a special skirt sealed the opening, protecting it from water. The main weapon for water hunting was the harpoon. Its design differed from that of a conventional spear. The harpoon tip was removable and attached to a long strap or line, the other end of which was tied to the boat. The tips often had special barbs that prevented them from slipping out of the wound. After hitting the target, for example, a seal, the tip separated from the shaft. The animal could not escape because it was tied to the boat with a long line.
Ark!
Floats made from inflated seal bladders were often tied to the line. They prevented the wounded animal from diving to great depths and dragging the boat away. In addition, the floats tired the prey and indicated its location to the hunter. Whaling was the pinnacle of maritime fishing and required the participation of an entire fleet of large boats called umiaks. It was an extremely dangerous undertaking that required courage and coordinated work from the entire team. The harpooners had to bring the boat close to the giant in order to deliver a precise blow. The skill of a hunter on the water lay in his ability to read the water, predict the weather, and understand the behavior of marine animals. He was one with his boat, which became an extension of his body. This harmony between man, boat, and water was the key to success. What if I told you that an arrow shot from an Indian bow was as effective as a bullet at certain distances? The bow was the main ranged weapon of the Native Americans. It was a complex and powerful device, the production of which required great skill. Bows were made from carefully selected wood. In the Great Plains, where trees were scarce, bows made from juniper or bison horn were especially prized. Composite bows glued together from several layers of wood, horn, and sinew were incredibly powerful and elastic. The process of making such a bow could take several months. The craftsmen slowly dried the wood, shaped it as needed, and then glued soaked and split tendons to the back of the bow. This layer of tendons acted as a spring, significantly increasing the power and speed of the shot. The bowstring was also made from tendons or rawhide. It had to be thin, strong, and not stretch when wet. Drawing the bow required great physical strength from the hunter. Arrows were no less important than the bow itself. Their shafts were made from straight and light shoots, such as cornel or willow. They were straightened, sanded, and balanced to ensure a straight and stable flight. Arrowheads were made from the same materials as spearheads: stone, bone, or later, metal. They had different shapes depending on their purpose. Small and blunt for hunting birds, wide for large animals. Some arrowheads had barbs to make them harder to remove. The feathers on the tail of the arrow were crucial for stabilizing it in flight. Turkey, eagle, or hawk feathers were usually used. The feathers were split and carefully glued to the shaft with resin and tendon wrapping. The hunter-archer was a true sniper of his time. He could hit a running deer from a considerable distance. Shooting was done intuitively, without aiming devices, and was based on thousands of hours of practice. Silence was the main advantage of the bow. The hunter could fire several shots before the herd of deer or bison realized the danger and started to run. This made it possible to catch more than one animal at a time. The bow and arrow were the perfect weapons for hunting from ambush or by stalking. Using the terrain and wind direction, a hunter could sneak up on his prey within striking distance. It was a test of his patience, endurance, and knowledge of animal behavior. But how did hunters find their prey in the vast expanses of the prairies and forests? In the next chapter, we will discuss the art of tracking. For the Indian hunter, the earth was an open book, and animal tracks were its language. The ability to read these signs was a fundamental skill, without which any weapon was useless. A tracker could tell a whole story from barely visible footprints. He could determine not only the species of the animal, but also its sex, age, and even physical condition. The depth of the footprint indicated its weight, and the distance between the prints indicated its speed. From this data, it was possible to understand whether the animal was calm, frightened, or wounded.
They passed this way earlier this morning. I must follow.
The tracker paid attention to the smallest details. A broken twig, trampled grass, a piece of fur caught on a bush. Nothing escaped his gaze. He saw the world in such detail that is inaccessible to modern city dwellers. The hunter could determine how long ago an animal had passed by based on the freshness of the tracks. He assessed the moisture content of the soil in the footprint and the clarity of its edges. The animal's droppings were also an important source of information, revealing its diet and the time of its last meal. Tracking required incredible concentration and endurance. A hunter could follow a trail for hours, sometimes even days, with almost no rest. He moved silently and cautiously, always staying downwind so that his scent would not reach the animal's sensitive nose. He predicted the animal's route, knowing its habits in the terrain. He knew where the beast would stop to drink, where it would feed or rest. This allowed him to cut across and set up ambushes. This knowledge was vital not only for hunting, but also for warfare. A scout could determine the size of an enemy unit, its speed, and direction of movement from the tracks it left behind. The ground told him everything he needed to know. Although many types of hunting required individual skill, the capture of large herd animals was only possible through collective effort. Hunting together was not only a way to obtain food, but also an important social event that strengthened ties within the community. Dozens and sometimes hundreds of people participated. One of the most common tactics was drive hunting. Hunters surrounded a herd of deer, elk, or antelope, and gradually narrowing the circle, drove them in the desired direction. This could be a trap, a river, or a lake, where the animals became more vulnerable. Special structures called corrals were often built to create a pen. These were large enclosures made of logs and branches, with a wide entrance that narrowed inward. After driving the herd into such a corral, the hunters closed the entrance and could kill as many animals as necessary. The distribution of roles in such a hunt was strictly regulated. There were beaters who drove the herd with noise and shouts. There were shooters who lay in ambush and shot the animals when they were within range.
Commands were not shouted, but conveyed through subtle signals.
The whole process was led by an experienced leader, the master hunter. He developed a plan, positioned people, and gave commands using special signals. The success of the entire enterprise depended on his decisions and authority. The success of collective hunting depended on the discipline and coordination of each participant. Any careless step or premature shout could scare the herd away and nullify the efforts of many people. Everyone had to clearly know and perform their task. Collective hunting was not just an economic phenomenon, but a deeply social and cultural one. It taught people to work together, trust each other, and share the results of their joint efforts. These principles were the basis for the survival of indigenous peoples. Stone and wood were not the only materials used to make hunting tools. The bones and horns of large animals were no less valuable a resource. Thanks to their strength, lightness, and elasticity, they were ideal for creating a variety of tools. Bones were used to make arrowheads and harpoon tips. Bone was easier to work with than stone and could be shaped into finer and sharper forms. Bone tips were particularly effective for hunting fish and marine animals. Awls, needles, and scrapers for processing skins were also made from bone. These simple but indispensable tools made it possible to create high-quality clothing, footwear, and coverings for dwellings. Without them, life in the harsh climate would have been impossible. The antlers of deer, moose, and bison were even more valuable. They were used to make hoes for tilling the soil and handles for knives and scrapers. Strong and curved, they were ideal for these purposes. Thus, animals provided hunters not only with food and skins, but also with raw materials for creating new tools. This closed cycle demonstrates how rational and waste-free the culture of Native Americans was. They took everything they needed from nature and used it with maximum efficiency. The ability to adapt to changing conditions was key to the success of indigenous peoples. Their hunting tactics and tools were not fixed dogmas. They constantly changed and improved depending on the terrain, climate, and available game. The tribes of the Great Plains, having mastered the horse, radically changed their methods of hunting bison. Horseback hunting became more mobile and individual, though no less dangerous than the buffalo jump. This allowed them to use the resources of the prairies more efficiently. The peoples of the subarctic, who lived in long, snowy winters, developed unique devices for movement. Snowshoes allowed hunters to avoid sinking into deep snow and pursue moose or deer that were stuck in snowdrifts. Forest tribes were masters of the art of camouflage. They used natural materials, leaves, grass, clay, to blend in with their surroundings. This allowed them to sneak up on their sensitive prey at very close range. The arrival of Europeans and metal also brought about changes. Metal arrowheads and spearheads quickly replaced stone ones, as they were stronger and more durable. However, the hunting techniques and principles of interacting with nature remained unchanged for a long time. We can see that hunting for Native Americans was not just about obtaining food, but a complex interweaving of skill, knowledge, spirituality, and social organization. From honing a stone tip to coordinating the actions of hundreds of people during a drive, every aspect was thought out and refined to perfection. Their weapons were not only physical strength, but also deep intelligence, patience, and incredible observation skills. These methods allow us to see the world through the eyes of people who lived in complete harmony with nature. They did not oppose it, but were part of it, knowing its laws and respecting its power. Their story is not just a tale of the past, but a reminder of how inventive and wise humans can be when they live in harmony with the world around them. Which of the hunting tactics described impressed you the most? The spectacular bison jump or the silent art of forest traps? Suggest topics for future videos you would like to see on our channel in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new research into ancient cultures.